What's going on, everyone? So one of the things that the Lakers, I believe, should continue to look for are those diamonds in the rough, right? Find those hidden gems. Jordan Goodwin, right? Guy that didn't have a team, they brought in. He's been great for us. I know people don't really, he's not scoring, right? He started out the 2 games, gave it, 15 and 17, and he hasn't really done much scoring since then. And people look at just the scoring and go he's a bum. No, he's doing everything. I mean, he literally said in an interview when he signed that the Lakers told him how he's going to make the roster, and that was defense and rebounding, right? Those are the 2 things that they brought him in for. Right? And obviously you want him to trickle in some points, but he's there for defense and rebounding. And what has he done very well? Play defense and rebound. So he's been great, still young enough to kind of continue to mold and develop and be a piece for now and the future, right? Christian Koloko is a guy, Trey Jamison, who I really like, and Jamison is a guy that I actually wanted them to sign over Alex Len. He's been really good for the Lakers. He's been a solid kind of, again, gem, diamond in the rough, right? Find these young guys that can be foundation pieces, that can be kind of, rotation pieces. You need to fill out a roster regardless. Even if you have your front 6, 7 guys, you still need guys that you can kind of trickle in the back and get you through an 82-game season, maybe show up in some key spots throughout the playoffs and things along those lines. But another guy that recently became available that I really like the Lakers to maybe take a look at, even just a 10-day, or maybe even sign them to the G League team, right? They did that with Devontae Graham. They did that with Stanley Johnson. Right? Maybe you do this with a Johnny Davis. I think Johnny Davis is a guy that still has a ton of potential. He was a top 10 pick in the 2022 draft. Hasn't really been able to find his groove, hasn't really been able to find his footing, but he's still very young, right? He's still only 22 years old, 6'4", 6'5". He's got a 6'9" wingspan. I think it's 6'8 and a half, somewhere in that range. But he's a guy that can be a legit 2-way player, and again is young enough to continue to shape and mold and build for the future, right? Be a young foundation piece that you can kind of... One of the things that the Lakers really wanted to focus on in this offseason was to be a place of development, right? Find these young kids, these young guys that they can go take, bring into their system, kind of grow, develop, and then bring them into, maybe a starting role or a rotation spot or whatever, right? Be a big contributor to this team. And you're going to have some cycled players. You're going to have some players that just, there's just some guys that never amount to anything. There's going to be some guys that you're going to be able to develop beautifully, and you're going to be able to really kind of put in position to have success. And I think Johnny Davis is one of those guys that could potentially be one of those success stories at some point for the Lakers. Again, he's got good athleticism, good size, good strength, good versatility. He's a guy that I really do think could make some sense for the Lakers. But to kind of just go over what I think he can bring and provide to this team. So Johnny Davis so far, again, if you're looking at his numbers, they're not oh my God, insane. But the promise is there. So this season with the Washington Wizards, again, he hadn't played for the Grizzlies yet. So he was traded from Washington to the Grizzlies, had not played for the Grizzlies yet. So keep that in mind. So we're going off of his Washington stats, 34 games, 7.1 minutes per game, 41% from the field, 24% from three-point range on 0.9 attempts. So not even one full attempt. 51% though from two-point range on, again, 1.4 attempts, 45.5% EFG, 60% from the foul line, but again, 0.4 attempts. Rebounding, 1.1 rebounds, half an assist, half a steal, half a block, 2.4 points. His best season was his first year with Washington, in which he played 28 games. He averaged 15.1 minutes per game, shot, again, 24% from three-point range on 2.5 attempts, but averaged 6 points, 2.5 rebounds, an assist, half a steal, half a block. Again, more of a defensive guy, long, lengthy, versatile, can slot in, play the 2 or the 3. But if you go into his per 36, also keep in mind, again, development guy. This is a guy that you're bringing in, another draft pick, because the Lakers don't have the draft pick. So you can bring in another guy that can come in and play a role. But if you look at his per 36 this year, he'd be a 12.6 rebound, 2 assists, 2.5 steals, and a block per game. Again, this is a 6'4", 6'5" guard, right? And he'd be a 12, 6 rebound a game guy, right? And just so, because again, per 36 doesn't tell everything. It doesn't tell the whole story, right? But it gives you kind of an idea of like where a guy could potentially be if you're able to develop him in the right manner. It does kind of give you a good inclination. But if you're wondering like, okay, well, that's this year he had 4 attempts and stuff like that. Hit for his career, he would be a 11.5 rebound, 2 assists, 1.5 steals, and a block per game. So, his stats are very similar. Again, his best year, he would have been a 14-6 to 1-1 guy. But this is a guy that, again, can play defense, be your point of attack, right? Defend multiple positions. He's got to work on his offense, right? That's where he's kind of had his struggles. But the reason the Lakers like guys like a Jared Vanderbilt and a Dorian Finney-Smith, who Dorian Finney-Smith can be hot and cold at times, but he's probably the best shooting wing we have. But you look at or two-way wing, because Rui shoots better, but defensively, I'm talking about defense, right? But like Jordan Goodwin, they really like Jordan Goodwin. Right? He's not this great offensive guy, right? But he's hard-nosed, versatile, right? Can rebound the ball well, can do multiple things on the basketball court, defend multiple positions, right? Like they like these guys. Stanley Johnson they brought in. Supposedly his 3-point shot has improved. He was actually like 45% on like 4 attempts a game for the San Antonio Spurs last time he was actually in the league. But it's a reason why they like a guy like him. Brandon Davis is another guy that I think could kind of fit that mold. Good rebounder for the guard position, has a good nose for the basketball, can defend multiple positions, can play multiple positions, you just got to work with him on the offense and the shooting touch, right? Is that something that he can kind of develop and grow in, right? Again, I don't think it's a bad idea to bring a guy like him in and just kind of, kid, he's 22 years old. You get a feel for him. If it doesn't work, give it a year or two of just like development. If it doesn't work, you cut him loose and you go for the next guy, right? And again, he's not a guy that teams are going to be rushing to the door for, right? I mean, I think he'll end up eventually signing with somebody because he's 22 years old. And I could see some teams being like, okay, well, hey, we could use, a 15th guy or whatever, or a guy for our two-way pool or whatever, right? Like you could, I do believe at some point he's going to get signed. But if I'm the Lakers, I would look to, like I said, even just bring him into the G League, just to bring him under the umbrella, right? Like you've seen the Lakers do very heavily recently. If you could do something along those lines with the Johnny Davis, I think he's a guy that you can start to condition and start to work his way into your system, and then next year could be a guy that you look to really maybe bring into the roster or give him a chance, right? Maybe you keep him on a two-way, get a good look for him, kind of give him a couple games to kind of see, and then maybe you're bringing him in at some point. Or maybe he's an end-of-the-bench guy, right? Like, he's your 14th, 15th guy on the roster. Because you're going to also you got to keep in mind. So, Lakers going to have Luka, going to have LeBron. Depending on how much money LeBron is willing to take, Lakers are going to need really cheap guys, right? Even just end-of-the-bench guys that fill out a roster. Because LeBron, even if he's willing to take a discount, you're probably going to use that money that he's taking the discount to go and fill other needs and positions. And then what are they going to do with Austin Reeves, right? Are they going to extend Austin Reeves? Because if he does, he's going to get a bag. Right? He's going to get probably $30, $40 million. And if the Lakers don't give it to him, some other team is going to give it to him. And that becomes a problem, right? So they're going to need to find as many of these like cheap, the Jordan Goodwins, the Trey Jamisons, the Johnny Davises of the world. And they're going to need those kind of guys to kind of round out the back end of the bench, back end of the roster. And so if they can be guys, if you can find these guys that are still young, that you could spend, 2-3 years really growing and developing under your banner, right? Worst case scenario, you cut them or you attach them as salary filler to a trade. Right? It's not that big of a deal. It's not something that's like, I can't believe the Lakers. No, it's a guy that can come in, slot in, play a role. He already does the things that the Lakers need. Rebounding, defense. Those are two things that the Lakers need desperately, right? Like, they can't have too much of that. Because between Luka and LeBron and Austin Reeves, you're going to generate enough offense. Not worried about your offensive generation, right? You're worried about the defensive side of things and the grit and the dirty work and the hustle plays and stuff like that. And So bringing these guys, like, again, a Jordan Goodwin, right? If you can bring in a Stanley Johnson is another guy. Bring in a Johnny Davis, right? These are guys that, one, you know are going to give you the effort, right? Because they're hungry. They know what it's like to not be on an NBA roster, right? They have a ton to prove. They want to find a home, right? So they're gonna work their tails off. But they're also guys that can better balance out this roster, at least momentarily or next year, whatever. Obviously, you want to find as many two-way guys as possible. But like I said, even for like the end of the bench guy, give you a 22-year-old that you can really grow. He's a guy that I really do think is just, he needs the opportunity. Problem is, though, too, is like, is the Lakers the best place for him to get the opportunity? Right? Like, I don't know. But he's a guy that I think if he could find the right home that's willing to really work with him and be patient with him, I do think he's a guy, because he does all the little intangibles that you want. He does all those things very well. Right? He's really good about, like, again, the hustle plays and little nuance stuff. Right? It's just the offensive game. He's really is where he's had his struggles. Can you kind of, that can be adjusted, right? Even if he's not elite, can you just get him good enough to where he's respectable out there on the basketball court? That could go a real long way for the Lakers. So things like that, just kind of keep in mind when you're looking at Johnny Davis. Again, to me, it's not a guy I want to bring on a main roster. I wouldn't mind bringing him in on like a two-way, something like, or not a two-way, 10-day, right? Get a little look for him, get a little feel, see how he functions out there, and then if it works, maybe slide him down to the G League, right? Maybe you're waving somebody and bringing in a Trey Jamison, right? Or a Jordan Goodwin, and then he's slotting into the Jordan Goodwin role as like the two-way guy. Maybe get him some reps throughout the course of the season. I don't hate it. Just thought, as soon as I saw him get waived, I was like, he's a guy that I think makes some sense for the Lakers, right? Can kind of fill a role and a need. But let me know your thoughts and opinions. Either way, down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you like the idea of Johnny Davis? Do you not like the idea of Johnny Davis? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are. I love to hear it either way, so let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out as we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.